Hey friends, so today we are going to talk about the DNA part of the detox and DNA. So we've already covered the liver, the kidneys, which are major detox organs. We've talked about how the skin is a major part of detox, both taking in environmental toxins and getting rid of bodily toxins. Today I want to talk about the genetic side of this, and we will touch on epigenetics, obviously, because they go hand in hand. So I'm going to cover one in particular gene today, and it's one that I think a lot of you have probably heard of. We've done videos on methylation and MTHFR in the past, but I want to talk about methylation specifically as it impacts your body's capacity to detox. So first of all, we've already talked about why we need to detox, right? What is the why does this become our responsibility? And it's not necessarily our responsibility to be in charge of detox. It is our responsibility to care for the detox pathways in our body, namely the liver, the kidneys, methylation, glutathione transferase, which we're going to talk about in another video, and how all of these organ systems and genetic processes work together. And this is where diet and lifestyle come into play, because that is how you can support what your body was naturally designed to do without getting in the way. So if you've taken any of my classes, if you've heard my other videos, you know that I'm a firm believer that you cause everything that's wrong with you, and you are personally responsible for your disease, which means you are personally responsible for healing from those diseases. And that is entirely possible when you take that responsibility into your own hands. There is nothing that happens in the body that doesn't directly result from what you eat, how you manage your sleep, how much exposure, direct exposure to the sunlight you get, how hydrated you are, how you manage your stress, what you put into and on your body. Those things are infinitely more important to your overall health than your genetics are, than what your doctor tells you is. You have the power within you, based on the choices you make, to control your health forever and to not be a victim of things happening to you, but in order to be the responsible party for keeping you not only functioning well, but living optimally in every aspect of your life. So let's talk about MTHFR. First of all, we've talked about this statistic before. There are more than 100,000 chemicals found in your food, drugs, personal products, and everyday items, and about 1,000 new ones that come into existence every single year. Okay, so it's unfortunate, but these things are not going away. We're always going to have to be on top of making sure that we are as healthy as possible, that we function as good as we possibly can, because the world is going to continue to inundate us with things. We talked about this in terms of viruses too. You're always going to be exposed to those things. That's not the problem. The problem is, are you living in a way that makes your body able to be resistant to those things, to have a strong, healthy immune system so that your body naturally fights those things? It's not to avoid them. That's not the point at all. It's to be healthy enough and to be strong enough and to do the right things every day so that your body does what it's supposed to do. It will always fight bacteria. It will always fight infection. It will always fight off viruses unless you prevent it from doing that. The same is true in terms of detoxification. Your body has all of these processes that it was created with to keep you functioning optimally, to keep you healthy, and to keep you from having too much exposure to these things. But if you're wearing perfumes and you're using cosmetics and you're using fabric softener and dryer sheets, you are now poisoning yourself and overloading the system. So it's your responsibility to avoid as much as you can of these things. And then it is your responsibility to keep your body from having to worry about other things like a poor diet, like poor sleep, so that it can't function at its best. It doesn't have the means to protect you because you prevented it from being able to do that. So I know sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow when I say that you are the reason that you have whatever disease you have, or you are the reason that you feel ill. And you are also the only way for you to feel better. And sometimes that's hard to hear, but it is 100% accurate in every situation. There's no denying the fact that we are the ultimate responsible party when it comes to our own health. So what is methylation? First of all, MTHFR is the genetic SNP that we're looking for. So if you've not had your genetic test done with us, there are two MTHFR SNPs that we look for. The two most common, or the two most studied. And I'm going to get to those in a second. There are about 30 genes right now that we know of that affect methylation. No one gene stands alone, and if you've had a genetic test and done a genetic report with me, you've heard me say this before, all of our genes interact with one another the same way all of our organ systems interact with one another. Nothing is by itself. So you can't have a liver problem and just treat the liver, or have a kidney problem and just treat the kidney, or have a mental health issue and just treat the brain, because the gut and the hormones and the organ systems all interact with one another. Nothing stands by itself. There's nothing that happens in isolation in the body, and that includes genetics. So while we're going to talk about a few key genes, it's important to understand that those genes interact with other genes. And so there may be other genes that are what we call quote unquote dirty, that need to be cleaned up in order to support these. But we're going to talk about very specific SNPs. A SNP, SNP, stands for single nucleotide polymorphisms. That is a change in that genetic coding that makes it not be optimal. Meaning you have a risk allele, or more than one, you can have two, on that genetic code at that point that we're looking at. So MTHFR stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. Okay, big word. But what does methylation do? So this particular pathway, methylation for short, helps your body process amino acids using folate, vitamin B9, okay, as well as other biochemical pathways. Methylation actually controls, to some extent, other genetic expression, right? So if your genes stay the same all the time, but we turn them on and off, right? We use the phrase, your genes load the gun, but epigenetics pulls the trigger. So genetics loads the gun, epigenetics pulls the trigger. So you have the capacity to turn genetic expression on and off every day based on your choices. So our goal in terms of diet, lifestyle, supplementation, and all of these 7 pillars of health that we address is to make sure that you are doing everything you can to keep those genes clean, functioning optimally, and keep the right genes turned on and the wrong genes turned off, okay? And again, you have that ability when you understand them. So knowing your genetics doesn't mean you know you're going to have a disease. It means you know that the choices you make leading up to that have value, and you are empowered to make the right decisions for the health you want to have, the longevity you want to have, the life you want to live, all of those things. So it's about understanding your biology in a way that gives you more power to make good choices. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna move over from here. Now, we estimate that 40 to 60% of the population, and depending on who you talk to or what you read, it varies. We now think that more than 60% of the general population in the world, the global population, has at least one of the MTHFR mutations. The two that we talk about and the two that we test for are C677T and A1298, okay? And those are the most heavily studied in terms of the methylation process, like I said. So methylation converts folate into a usable form, which is 5L-methylfolate or tetrahydromethylfolate. And it requires other B vitamins. So B1, B2, B3, B9, B12 are all part of the methylation cycle. When you, well, I'll save that for the end. Anyway, so methylation is involved in 200 enzymatic reactions in the body, occurring billions of times per second every day in our cells. Methylation itself is responsible for detoxification, DNA repair, energy production, mood stabilization, glutathione production, glutathione being our master antioxidant, another part of the detox process, which is its whole own video, and inflammation. In addition, folate contributes to, or the MTHFR mutation contributes to elevated homocysteine levels because methylation controls homocysteine levels in the body. When you have excess homocysteine, you may have even a harder time detoxifying the body. Other things that affect methylation include your diet, your lifestyle, your exposure to environmental toxins, your stress management, and other epigenetic factors like I talked about. Folic acid, which you've heard me argue about or talk to people about, and we have lots of posts in the group about folic acid. Folic acid is not folate. It is a synthetic, lab-created version of folinic acid called folic acid, which looks like folinic acid but does not function in the body like folinic acid. Your body recognizes it as being synthetic. And this is why when we talk about supplementation, it's so important. Quality does matter. If you take synthetic vitamins or you eat foods enriched and fortified with synthetic vitamins, you do more damage to your body than to not have had them at all. It is so important to not take garbage, crappy vitamins because you create new problems. Harder time detoxing, more issues, and folic acid for those people who have the MTHFR mutation is literally poisonous. So in our B complex, we address this by using both natural forms of folate, 5L-methylfolate and folinic acid, both of which are already methylated, already in the most usable form for your body. And then we blend those with thiamine, riboflavin. You're supporting B vitamins to improve the methylation process, which is why whether you have MTHFR or not, generally speaking, you notice immediately a difference in how your body functions when you begin using the ID nutrition, because everything's real and your body grabs onto those things and says, I know what to do with this. And now I can function better. So you can have the best diet. You can exercise all the time, but you are not just what you eat. You are what you are capable of absorbing. And if you are doing things outside of a healthy diet that prevent your body from absorbing the right things because you put anti-nutrients in or synthetic vitamins in that block absorption of real vitamins from your foods, you now create more problems and it becomes harder for your body to function. Okay, I am going to try and make this fast. So folate is a natural form of B9 required for your body for cell division, normal growth and development, and nerve and brain function. Whereas folinic acid is also a natural occurring form of B9 found in many foods, which is metabolically active, does not require enzymatic conversion, and it is supportive of DNA base production, cell turnover, and when your DNA production demands are high, such as when you are repairing the gut lining, regenerating skin or hair, there are some reports that folinic acid also helps mitigate hair loss during things like chemotherapy and thyroid problems. Whereas folic acid can be particularly harmful, particularly in the high levels in which people consume it today. And knowing that there are such high levels of people with the MTHFR mutation, the folic acid attaches itself to the same receptor site that the folate would. However, it blocks absorption. It cannot be utilized. So now you have a piece of bread that has folic acid in it, or you have a multivitamin that has folic acid in it, or you eat something enriched or fortified that has folic acid in it. It binds to that receptor site. So now that you eat something that has folate in it, or you take a good quality supplement that has folate in it, or folinic acid, it passes by the receptor site because there's nowhere for it to attach. Now you have created, by taking folic acid, you have actually created a folate deficiency, folate deficiency, because you cannot absorb the real stuff. You blocked it. The same way when you eat grains that have high lectin loads and phytic acid loads, those are anti-nutrients, and they actually block absorption of real vitamins from your food. So you don't actually absorb any nutrition from your food when you eat it with a grain. Or legumes have the same issue. Some nuts have the same problem. You're actually blocking absorption of those nutrients. Okay. That's it on this page of notes, I think. Yeah, I already talked about the two. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of detoxification, knowing that 60% at least of Americans have this issue, that there's a high likelihood that you are a person who doesn't methylate well, right? And so what does that mean in terms of what happens in your body? So we know that methylation, good methylation, promotes detoxification. It helps produce glutathione in the body. It maintains your DNA. It keeps your mood and hormones balanced. It produces all the neurotransmitters in your body, and it controls inflammation in the body. So if you're feeling particularly inflamed, if you have the MTHFR mutation, you're more likely to become inflamed or have inflammation issues. It also works in conjunction with other genes like COMT, TPMT, BHMT, PEMT, MTR, MTRR, CBS, CYP, and the list goes on and on and on. And if you have questions about those genes, that's something that we would discuss if we did a DNA consultation. Things that you may notice that may tip you off to the fact that you have poor methylation: hormone imbalance, infertility issues, cardiovascular problems, circulatory problems, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar, manic, schizophrenia, all related in many ways to MTHFR, as well as a combination of genes. Autoimmune conditions. If you have the MTHFR mutation, you are far more likely to have an autoimmune condition. Problems with memory, brain fog, cognitive impairment. Digestive problems, digestive distress, gas, bloating, constipation, acid reflux. Issues with choline, which means you may also have vision problems. Allergies, because of the relationship between histamine and homocysteine. Things like sneezing, itching, hives, runny nose, watery eyes, can all be related to methylation, at least in some part. And inflammatory systemic conditions, so things like inflammatory bowel disease, problems with nerve conduction, your nerve endings, etc. If you have poor methylation, if we don't address these issues, then you also are going to not make glutathione, not absorb CoQ10 properly, not create enough melatonin at night for you to sleep. So you may notice that you have sleep issues. You don't make enough serotonin during the day, so you probably have mood issues, difficulty concentrating, focus. It's hard to make nitric oxide, which is responsible for circulation. You probably have difficulty regulating norepinephrine and epinephrine in the brain. So again, back to mood, mental health, anxiety. Problems with L-carnitine, an amino acid that's used in multiple places in the body. Problems regulating cysteine, and problems creating taurine in the body. So, one, do the DNA test. You get a lengthy report. We do cover methylation, we cover inflammation, we cover a lot of things. If you haven't seen a sample of the report or you haven't seen the list of things that we look at, please ask. We're happy to share that with you. And then the DNA results get applied to your assessment as well, so that we're addressing not just your diet, your lifestyle, the epigenetic factors, but we address the genetic factors, and we teach you about preventing problems later. These things come together. We use the Detox Box, the custom nutrition, diet, lifestyle, education to make sure that you always live your best life. I'm going to do another video on glutathione. That's next. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful day.